You are about to follow a story full of twists and turns where the truth can change everything at any moment. In this plot, each decision can unleash dark secrets or reveal a new hope. Before we start, tell us in the comments where you are watching our story from, subscribe to the channel, and leave your like so you don't miss any details of this electrifying mystery. Elias settled into his documents, surrounded by spreadsheets and agreements in a luxurious office that, despite its elegance, could not dispel the growing discomfort in his chest. His wedding with Veronica was scheduled for a little over a month from now, and the obligation to ensure that everything went perfectly weighed heavily on his shoulders. "Elias, you seem worried," his father Eduardo commented as he entered the room. "Is everything really okay?" Elias looked up from his papers, trying to hide the whirlwind of uncertainty. "It's just a strange feeling. It seems like something doesn't fit as it should." "Are you referring to Veronica?" Eduardo asked, combining curiosity and uneasiness in his gaze. "She is a charming woman. We all believe that you make a good couple." "Yes, that's what everyone says, but there's something that bothers me," Elias replied, holding back a sigh. "The way she and her family behave around me, as if they were waiting for the right moment to do something." Eduardo tilted his head, frowning. "Aren't you overreacting? People show affection in different ways." Elias sighed, staring at the windows that opened onto the impeccably kept garden. "Maybe, but I sense a coldness, something superficial, and I can't ignore the impression that they're just waiting for an opportunity." Eduardo placed his hand on his son's shoulder with a mixture of concern and empathy. "If it's that uncomfortable, why don't you investigate? It's not right for either of us to go ahead with a commitment surrounded by insecurities." Elias agreed resolutely. "That's what I'll do. I can't take this step without being sure of what I'm feeling." The decision was made. Elias knew he had to act. The next morning, he went to a thrift store and picked out a set of modest, worn-out clothes, suitable for someone who lived in the open air. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, adopting an expression and posture that would lend some credibility to the disguise. By the end of the day, Elias was prepared. His new look would go unnoticed among the people on the street. He set off towards Veronica's neighborhood, his heart racing with anxiety to find out what was going on. Hiding in the shadows of the alleys and sneaking up to her house was just the first step in an audacious plan. "How are you feeling?" asked Renan, the friend who was helping Elias execute the strategy. Elias took a deep breath. "The tension is eating away at me, but I need to know the truth." Renan placed a hand on his shoulder as if to convey reassurance. "Just don't forget that what you find could change everything. It's a huge risk." Elias nodded. With one last look in the mirror, he left the house, his heart racing and his head buzzing with questions. The truth had to be revealed, no matter what came with it. Elias began to wander the streets surrounding Veronica's mansion, observing every detail around him, always aware of the movements. The place was quieter than he expected, with few people around. He approached the mansion's gates and came face to face with the security guard, an imposing man with hard features who made no attempt to hide his contempt. "What do you want?" the guard shouted indifferently. "I'm hungry. I'm cold. Could you get me something to eat?" Elias said, assuming a pleading look. The security guard looked him up and down without any trace of empathy. "This is no place for beggars. Get out of here before I call the police." Feeling the weight of humiliation, Elias retreated to a more secluded area, willing to wait until another opportunity arose. After a few minutes, he saw Veronica's father leaving the mansion in a sophisticated pickup truck. Elijah approached, trying again. "Sir, please, I'm really hungry. Would it be possible for you to help me?" He tried hard to sound humble. The man looked up in quick analysis, but got into the car without hesitation. "Sorry, I don't have time," he ventured, pulling away without any consideration. The same feeling of rejection weighed on Elias, who remained obstinate. At a certain point, Veronica appeared, and Elias took the opportunity to try to contact her. "Mrs. Veronica, could you give me at least a piece of bread?" he asked, his eyes full of rehearsed desperation. Veronica, with a sharp smile, showed immediate impatience. "I have nothing to offer. Go away, you're just getting in the way." she said coldly, walking away without even looking back. Elijah felt the cruel impact of the way he was treated. These people displayed cordiality in public, but here they were demonstrating a disturbing indifference. He was about to give up when he saw Clara, Veronica's mother, leave the mansion. Elegant and imposing, she radiated an uncomfortable sovereignty. Elias decided to try one last time. "Ma'am, please, just a piece of something to eat. I'm starving and I have nowhere to go," he begged. Clara couldn't even hide the disgust on her face. "This is an outrage. Leave immediately or I will have you removed," she ordered, her voice sharp. As Elias walked away, the feeling of humiliation only grew. Then he noticed Lais, one of the housekeepers, who was leaving to take out the trash. He saw in her a glimmer of hope. "Please, ma'am, a little water or food would be all I needed," he begged, looking helpless. Lais stopped, scrutinizing him with eyes full of empathy. "You're really hungry, aren't you? Wait a moment, I'll see what I can do." And she headed to the kitchen. When he returned, he brought bread and water. "Here, I hope it helps. I don't know what you're going through, but everyone deserves a little dignity." Elijah took the offering with sincere gratitude. "Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. You can't imagine how much this means to me." Lais nodded in understanding. "Don't worry. Just take care of yourself and try to find a safe place." Elias's mind was still full of uncertainty, but Lais's gesture of kindness touched him. It was as if a ray of hope had opened up, reminding him that compassion still exists, even in environments where everything seems cold. Over the next few days, Elias persisted in prowling the property, testing the limits of his disguise to extract any evidence or clues that would confirm his suspicions. It became increasingly obvious that Veronica and her family were acting in a distant, almost inhuman manner. One afternoon, Elias returned to the same spot where he had received help. He sat on a bench, reflecting on everything he had witnessed. His attention was caught when he saw Lais leaving the mansion, her expression thoughtful. "Hi, Elias," she said as she passed him, her voice revealing insecurity and slight curiosity. "Are you here again? You look tired." Surprised, Elias sat up straight on the bench. "Yes, my days have been complicated. And you? Are you okay?" Lais showed genuine concern. "I'm exhausted, but that's life. And you? Why are you here so often?" Elias saw an opportunity in her eyes. "Sometimes I feel like life is giving me no respite. It feels like I'm stuck in an endless search." With solidarity, Lais responded, "I'm sorry. If you want to talk, I'm willing to listen." He decided to partially open his heart. "I just want to thank you for your kindness. That day you helped me a lot." Lais smiled with a comforting sweetness, something rare in the mansion. "You're welcome. We all go through difficulties at some point." The conversation flowed surprisingly for Elias, who discovered a little more about Lais. She mentioned her family, her deceased father, and the responsibility of supporting the household. She also talked about her dream of one day studying nursing, a hope that gave her the strength to pursue it. "My father always told us to never give up on who we are, no matter how hard the road is," said Lais, her eyes shining with determination. "I still have that dream, even though I don't know when I'll be able to make it come true." Elias listened to her attentively, empathizing with the strength she demonstrated. "You are brave. It must be difficult to balance work and the desire to study." Lais let out a light sigh. "Yes, but I don't lose hope. Life isn't always easy, and faith in dreams is what pushes me." "And you? What brought you here?" He hesitated. It wasn't the time to reveal the whole truth, but he didn't want to lie. "I'm looking for answers to something that's been bothering me. I don't know what it is yet, but I need to find out." Lais looked at him with understanding. "Finding answers can be a long journey, but you are not alone. If you need to talk, I will be around." The afternoon was drawing to a close, and Elias noticed that the complicity between him and Lais was growing stronger. As he said goodbye, he felt a breath of comfort, less lonely than before. "Thank you for listening to me. It has been very important," he confessed with an open heart. "No need to thank me," Lais replied softly. "I think everyone needs someone who really listens." Elias stepped back, contemplating the impact Lais had on him. Her kindness was a spark of hope in the face of so much indifference. Something inside him was beginning to change, raising new doubts about his true motives in this investigation. Still, Elias continued his cautious visits to the mansion. He wanted to unravel every nuance and understand if there was really something perverse behind the behavior of Veronica and her family. However, the time spent with Lais brought a new perspective, creating a silent dilemma within him. Late one night, Elias decided he needed more evidence to support or refute his suspicions. He went to the servants' part of the mansion, where he might find Lais and be able to talk without fear. He found the back door ajar and entered carefully, being greeted by a silent kitchen. There was Lais, organizing food, apparently tired. Elias knocked lightly on the door so as not to scare her. "Can I come in?" he asked, trying not to draw attention. Lais looked up and, upon recognizing him, gestured for him to come closer. "Come in, don't worry. What brings you here at this hour?" Elias entered cautiously. "I need to understand more about Veronica and her family. I've been seeing strange things. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary around here?" Lais, visibly disturbed by the memory of secrets that haunted the house, shrugged her shoulders. "I feel like there are a lot of appearances. There are whispered conversations, but I don't want to get involved. I have a specific reason for investigating this," Elias replied seriously. "I can't go into detail about everything, but I'm afraid Veronica and her family aren't who they seem. Do you know anything that confirms this suspicion?" Lais took a while to answer, as if she was considering her loyalty to her job. "I once heard the boss on the phone, talking about a scheme involving marriage and money. She even mentioned a man identified only as S. I don't know if he's someone close to her or a possible accomplice." Elias felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. That sounds really weird. Could this S be Veronica's lover, or someone from the family who is helping with the plan? I'm not sure. I just noticed that there's a constant tension, and her cousin is always hovering around the office, lurking, as if he's waiting for something. I find the whole thing suspicious. Elias processed each piece of information, a chill running through his body. So there's more to this story than I imagined. Lais looked at him with a mixture of pity and fear. "Please be careful. You might be getting involved in something big." Elias stood up, determined. "Thank you, Lais. This all just reinforces that I need to go deeper. Someone could end up getting hurt by these lies." Lais accompanied him to the exit, worried. "If you need help, let me know. I don't want you to be in danger alone." Elias left the mansion with his mind racing. He would need to investigate much more to find out what Veronica and her family were up to, and he would have to act quickly before it was too late. The next morning, Elias came up with a more audacious plan. He needed material evidence, something that would leave no doubt about the intentions of Veronica and her family. Just hearing stories would not be enough. He decided that the best time to break into the mansion would be during lunch, when activity usually slowed down. The idea was to look for evidence of manipulation and hidden secrets, especially in the documents kept in the office. Cautiously and maintaining his disguise, Elias found the exact moment when the kitchen was empty and slipped into the house. He needed to get to Veronica's office because rumor had it that the most important records were kept there. With silent movements, Elias entered the room without being seen. He observed the luxurious place, full of high-end furniture. What caught his attention was a pile of folders on the table, labeled with enigmatic titles. He began to leaf through the documents, analyzing contracts, spreadsheets, and other papers detailing investments. Then his eyes fell on a folder labeled Action Plan. Opening it, he found a letter that appeared to be personal. With each sentence he read, Elias's heart beat faster. There were clear references to a plot to control Elias emotionally in order to manipulate his fortune and his father's company. The text made direct references to Veronica, her mother, and that enigmatic S. Elijah was overcome with revolt and disbelief. This proved that his fears were well-founded. With trembling hands, he gathered up some of these documents and put them away, certain that he would need to present them as evidence. He left the office in a hurry, taking care not to arouse suspicion. He almost tripped over Lais on the way. She noticed the tension on his face. "Elias, what happened?" she asked, alarmed. "I found something that confirms everything. Veronica and her family are planning to take advantage of me and my father. They are setting up a scam." He exuded indignation. Lais widened her eyes. "So your suspicions are justified? This is serious." "Yes, and now I have proof," Elias explained, increasingly tense. "But I need help to ensure that these documents are safe. Will you help me?" "Sure, I'll do what I can. But be careful. They won't like it when you find out." With Lais' help, Elias created copies of the papers and sent them to a trusted lawyer who could act quickly if anything happened. This way, he was sure that the scheme would be revealed if they tried to silence him. The next day, Elias decided to confront Veronica and her family in a formal meeting. The occasion had been set to decide details of the wedding, but Elias would arrive with a truth that would change everything. The moment the family gathered around the table, Elias stood up and, with the evidence in hand, exposed the farce. The reaction was immediate. Shocked faces and desperate attempts to explain the inexplicable. Veronica tried to reverse the situation, but Elias was convinced of his decision to break off the engagement and prevent his assets from being targeted by this scam. The situation became even more heated when the so-called S appeared, revealed to be Veronica's cousin and accomplice. Leaving the mansion, Elias felt his heart race with relief and a touch of bitterness. He only wanted a sincere relationship, but he had come across a treacherous plot. On the horizon, he saw Lais waiting for him. He knew he would still have to deal with the legal consequences, but being by her side, who had offered support from the beginning, eased the situation. Elias understood that he would need to rebuild his confidence, but he was now certain that he was free from a trap and could glimpse new perspectives, especially alongside Lais, who had appeared in his life as a genuine presence. After the tumultuous events at the mansion, Elias felt a mixture of relief and hesitation. He had resolved the issue that had been tormenting him, but the repercussions were only just beginning. Veronica and her family were furious, and Elias would need to be prepared for any retaliation. In the days that followed, he focused on protecting all evidence and keeping in touch with his lawyer, making sure nothing was kept quiet. Lais, increasingly involved, remained by his side, providing assistance and valuable information about the movements of Veronica's family. The two often spoke or exchanged messages about any suspicious changes in the mansion. One day, Elias invited Lais for a quick lunch at a discreet cafe, away from prying eyes. They sat at a table near the window, enjoying the tranquility they found there. "I don't know how to repay everything you've done for me," said Elias, looking at Lais with recognition. "Without you, I would have been swallowed up by these people." "I didn't do anything wrong," Lais replied humbly. "It was your own courage that brought you here. I only helped as much as I could." As they enjoyed their meal, Elias realized how many recent changes had occurred in his life. He had discovered a betrayal, ended a relationship, and found new meaning alongside someone he would never have imagined. In a calm voice, Lais spoke about her life, remembering her father and the burden of taking care of her family. She still dreamed of enrolling in a university course to change her career, but circumstances kept her in the mansion. "My biggest wish is to graduate and help other people. Sometimes it seems far away, but I can't give up." Elias felt touched and decided to share an idea. "If you want, I can help you prepare for college, maybe even provide resources. I can't change the past, but I can help you in the future." Lais blinked, moved. "I appreciate it, Elias, but I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. Your company and support are already a gift." Elias insisted, genuinely. "It's not a question of debt, but of friendship and admiration. Trust me, I really want to see you achieve this dream." The conversation returned to the complications arising from the uncovered scam. Elias still had matters to resolve, such as formalizing the complaints and protecting his family's reputation. Despite everything, he felt the day radiate a lightness brought by Lais. They finished lunch certain that they were a strong team. Elias left with the determination to fight for justice and make the best of his life, while Lais, strengthened, felt more confident in pursuing her goal. The gratitude and connection they shared made it all worth it, and showed that after the storm, there was the promise of a new dawn full of opportunities. Elias continued to visit his lawyer, trying to gather any relevant details. Aware that Veronica's family might react, he decided to keep security tight around him as well. With the evidence officially recorded, Elias felt he was getting closer to closing that turbulent chapter once and for all. Lais remained firm by his side, and the two of them gradually built a new routine, lighter and full of hope. One afternoon, while Elias was reviewing papers in the country house that had belonged to his grandfather, a place he had chosen to isolate himself and rethink his life, he received a call from Lais, who sounded distressed. "Elias, I need to tell you something strange. I just received an anonymous message. They say they have information about a retaliation they are planning against you." Elijah felt his heart leap. "What does the message say? Is it trustworthy?" Lais took a breath, overcome with apprehension. "I don't know if it's reliable, but the message talks about possible legal threats and even personal risks against you." He swallowed. "Okay, thanks for letting me know. Let's get ready." Elias returned to his makeshift office in the country house, evaluating every possible scenario. Once he had spoken to the lawyer, he beefed up the security scheme, installing cameras and requesting extra surveillance. Meanwhile, Lais collaborated as best she could, filtering rumors in the mansion and sending any suspicious information. It was a silent battle, but Elias knew he could not back down. The challenge was not just legal. There were real dangers, and Elias grew increasingly concerned about Lais, fearing that she would be targeted for reprisals. In response, he instructed her to exercise constant caution. On a quiet night, tension hung in the air. Lais showed up at the country house carrying a folder of documents that could strengthen Elias's defense. The two sat down to analyze every detail, checking for loopholes that could be used in their favor in court. These documents show suspicious transactions in Veronica's family's contracts, Lais explained, pointing to some clauses. "Your lawyers can explore this." "Great work," Elias replied, turning the pages focused. "This could help us unmask any attempt to incriminate me." Lais sighed, frowned, and confessed, "It's all so tiring. Sometimes I wonder if we're ready for what's coming." Elias stood up, placing his hand on her shoulder. "It's normal to feel discouraged, but we need to have faith. Without your help, they would have destroyed me already." The two decided to join forces and work hard that night to anticipate any maneuvers by Veronica. They exchanged information, organized material strategically, and contacted the lawyer for a last-minute report. In this silent fight against invisible threats, the closeness between Elias and Lais only grew stronger. While fear surrounded them, mutual support was what kept them firm, as if together they could face any storm. As the case progressed, Elias knew that a legal confrontation was approaching. He gathered all the evidence, spoke with his lawyer, and prepared his defense for the decisive hearing that was to come. In court, Elias presented, in an organized manner, each document and piece of evidence that proved Veronica and her family's scheme. Their lawyer tried to disqualify their arguments, but Elias was able to respond solidly. Veronica and Clara were restless, realizing that the circle was closing in. With each new piece of evidence presented, it became clearer to the judge and the jury that Elias had been the target of a plot. The day was exhausting. When Elias and Lais retired to a waiting room, a thick silence fell before she asked, "So, how are you feeling?" Elias let out a slow breath, relieved to have said everything, but also anxious. "All we can do is wait for the sentence." Lais looked at him sweetly. "You were brave. You managed to show what really happened. I'm sure you did everything right." The following days were a long wait for the court to deliberate. Even though he trusted the evidence, Elias could not avoid the tension. Lais was there, bringing him messages of optimism and helping him to distract himself whenever possible. Then, the day of the verdict arrived. The judge entered, and Elias's heart raced. In a few words, The magistrate ruled that the evidence against Veronica was overwhelming. She and her mother had indeed committed fraud and manipulation, and they would answer for their actions. A wave of relief washed over Elijah. He felt as if he could finally breathe without chains strangling him. After all, justice had prevailed. When he left the audience room with Lais, he noticed the astonished expressions on Veronica and Clara's faces. That brought a mixture of satisfaction and sadness, because despite everything, she had been someone he planned to marry one day. On the way out, Elias smiled at Lais. "I wouldn't have come this far if you weren't by my side. Thank you for everything." Lais smiled back, moved. "It was your strength that brought you to this point. I just gave you a hand." Elias reflected on how that full stop also marked a new beginning. Even though the consequences still reverberated, there was no doubt he could move forward. With the favorable verdict, Elias and Lais felt ready to begin a new phase. But they knew that the transition would not be immediate. There were adjustments to be made in both their personal and professional lives. Elias chose to isolate himself in a small beach house that had belonged to his family, seeking the peace of the sea to reorganize his ideas. Lais did not hesitate to accompany him to help him adapt to the new environment. The coastal climate provided peace. Away from the hostile environment of the mansion and the legal tensions, Elias was able to think more clearly. During quiet conversations, Lais updated him on any repercussions of the trial that reached her ears. They also shared their dreams and plans. He wanted to reinvigorate the company inherited from his father, changing the organizational culture to something more transparent and beneficial to the community. "It's time to start over," Elias said one morning as they walked along the beach. "This whole process has opened my eyes. The company can do more than just make a profit." Lais agreed, stepping barefoot on the sand. "I'm sure it will be an incredible project. And how do you plan to start?" "I will restructure the sectors, create social projects, encourage actions that make sense for those who work there and for the people around them." Lais smiled, amazed. "Count on me. And don't forget that I have my own dream, to study to grow too. I haven't forgotten, no. I want to help you every step of the way if you'll let me. I know how much this means to you." As they made their plans, Elias felt the salty breeze renew his energy. He was more determined than ever to make a difference. And with Lais by his side, he believed that he could change not only his own destiny, but that of others as well. A few days later, Elias received documents from a lawyer who was collaborating on changes at the company. They were revitalization projects and partnerships that would benefit underprivileged communities. "Look, Lais," he said, showing the papers. "The ideas are starting to come to fruition. It seems that the answer is positive." "Fantastic," she exclaimed. "I'm so happy to see this taking shape." With this progress, Elias and Lais felt increasingly confident. It was as if the doors to a better future were finally opening. The social projects were in full swing, and Lais was beginning to prepare for her studies. Elias understood that he would need to be alert for possible retaliation from Veronica, but with the victory in court, he believed that the danger would gradually dissipate. However, he needed to remain alert. With each achievement, the bond between Elias and Lais grew stronger. The partnership that began unexpectedly had transformed into a sincere complicity, uniting dreams and hearts. With the case closed, Elias and Lais began to cultivate their life in the coastal city. He dedicated himself more and more to the company and social projects, while she began to organize the documentation to enroll in the desired course. Although the scenario seemed more stable, the transition to this new chapter was not without its challenges. Elias needed to adjust the internal team and ensure that the planned goals were met. Lais, in turn, had to deal with the anxieties of entering a demanding training program, but the tranquility offered by the sea helped to balance the rush of everyday life. One late afternoon, when the sun was setting and dyeing the sky pink, Elias and Lais sat on the sand, watching the waves. "This is all crazy, isn't it?" Elias commented. "Not long ago, I was stuck in a fake engagement. Now here I am, feeling like life is taking a completely different direction." Lais took his hand, affably. Sometimes, the twists and turns of the world are exactly what make us find the true path. They remained silent, just enjoying each other's company, embraced by the sea breeze that brought with it an omen of new beginnings. A few weeks later, Elias received news that the company's first social program was being launched. Education and development projects were beginning to come to life in partnership with local agencies. "It's exactly as I dreamed," he celebrated, sharing the information with Lais. "I'm looking forward to seeing the impact this has on those who need it most." Lais was thrilled with him. "This is just the beginning. You will do much more. And I will soon begin my study journey." They knew that together they could face any obstacle. After all, every adversity had only served to unite them. Life in the coastal city flowed serenely, filled with dreams that day after day became more tangible. After months, Elias and Lais established a routine. He balanced his work obligations with volunteer activities while she prepared to enter higher education. Their rapport grew, linked by the feelings they cultivated during difficult times. One night, to celebrate their progress, they decided to have dinner at a beachfront restaurant. It was a charming establishment with a panoramic view of the ocean. The mild climate and cozy decor promised a memorable evening. Elias arrived first, securing a privileged table. When Lais appeared, she had a different look in her eyes, dressed simply but elegantly. He stood up, kissed her hand, and led her to her seat. "You look beautiful," he complimented, feeling his heart warmed by her presence. "We really needed a moment for ourselves." "I thought so too," Lais smiled. "We need to celebrate our victories. We've been through so much together." They ordered special dishes and talked about the week. Lais mentioned the introductory classes she would have soon, talking about her expectations and fears. "I'm a little scared," she confessed, laughing nervously. "It's a huge challenge, but it's also what I've always wanted." "You'll do great," Elias encouraged. "You have plenty of talent and determination." Then the topic shifted to the progress of Elias' company and how social initiatives were bringing recognition. "The team is committed," he explained enthusiastically. "It's incredible to see people coming together for something that really makes sense." Lais looked proud. "You are transforming the company into something bigger than a business. It is inspiring." The dinner was filled with joy and camaraderie. At the end, Elias suggested a walk along the sand. The starry sky created a splendid view, and the moon reflected in the calm waters, creating a perfect setting. They walked hand in hand to a secluded spot. Elias stopped abruptly and turned to face Lais. There was something solemn in his expression. "I need to tell you something important," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "You appeared at an unexpected time, but you have been the most genuine and special person in my life." Lais blinked, holding her breath. "Elias." He knelt down on the sand, taking a small ring out of his pocket. "You gave me the courage to fight. You showed me what companionship and true love are. So I ask you, will you stay by my side forever?" Lais let the tears roll before answering. "Yes, Elias, I accept." With the yes, Elias hugged her tightly, overcome with emotion and a mixture of relief and joy. The sea witnessed the promise they both made to live a life marked by partnership and complicity. At that moment, they celebrated not only the end of a turbulent era, but the beginning of a shared journey where love and dreams would be cultivated together. So, what did you think of this narrative? Share here in the comments which part surprised you the most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more intense plots like this one. Thank you for watching until the end, and see you next time.